You're rocking with the voice of Town View. We put our spin on trending topics and school news. Thought-provoking, insightful, we speak the truth. We do it for all ages, not just for the youth. Listen close, you might learn something. Or laugh so hard, you split your side of something. Live stream a podcast. Whenever you tune in, it's sure to be a blast. Let's be honest, you don't want to miss that. Content so real, you gonna want to run it back. We keep you entertained while making an impact. Want foreign announcements? Well, this is not that. Sports, pop, culture, political. Whatever you like, we got you covered, bro. It's a movement more than just a show. It's KSBM Radio.
I'm closer to the music.
Broadcasting live from Marvin E. Robinson School of Business and Management, Dallas, Texas.
My radio station.
We are KSBM Radio, the voice of Townview.
Hey everyone, welcome back to KSBM Radio, the voice of Townview. I'm your host, Art Lover, and I'm here with
Unison, Dante,
Jelly, Violet.
And today we have a very special guest known as Lashonda Cooks, a proud alumna from the class of 2006 from the now Marvin E. Robinson School of Business and Management. She proudly dubs herself the adjuster by day and artist by night. Please welcome our special guest, Lashonda. So to get started, how has your morning been?
My morning was good. I went and worked out this morning, so I'm dragging a little bit. But yeah, it was crazy to park in front of the school and like walk in, and I was like, whoa. It looks the same, but it's so different because I've been gone almost 20 years. It'll be 20 years, 3 years from now, my 20-year reunion. So yeah, it's crazy. But I'm happy to be here with you guys, and yeah, it feels good.
Okay, so we're going to get started with the interview. Okay. You grew up in Dallas, Oak Cliff. To be exact, how did the local community influence your values and perspective?
Yeah, I'm from Oak Cliff, South Oak Cliff to be specific. Now I have to say that because, you know, people will be like, I love Oak Cliff, and I'm like, no, not that part. From South. But yeah, I grew up here, and I had two really big values shaped by that. One, I really wanted to leave Oak Cliff, honestly. Like, I couldn't wait. When I was y'all's age, I was like, I'm getting out of here. I'm going to go as far as possible. And I was looking at schools on the East Coast, and that's what I did. But once I left, and I realized, you know, grass is not necessarily greener. Every city has its hoods, and every city has its issues, but it also has its beauty. And I realized how beautiful Oak Cliff is and its people. And I really wanted to, when I moved back, I was like, I really want to, you know, highlight my community and make my community proud and, you know, bring some of the things that I learned when I was gone back here, like free art programming. Like, that was important to me to make, basically uplift my community. So I had a kind of a mind shift, but yeah, I'm proud of being from Oak Cliff, for sure.
So when you say specifically South, what area is that like? I mean, I know Oak Cliff. When I think of Oak Cliff, I know a certain area, but what's South?
Well, I say that because like right now, like a lot of people, when they think about Oak Cliff, they think about, which is not far from here, Bishop Arts, but Bishop Arts is like really, it's gentrified, you know, and it's like, that's not necessarily representative of Oak Cliff. So I'm from like Keystone Polk area. I'm from, and I grew up, when I was here in Townview, I lived like off near Lancaster and Keys. I took the bus from there. Here was one bus that went straight in front of the school, dark bus. So yeah, that's why I clarify that, because I'm like, no. I'm from, you know, yeah, I mean, it's the difference. It matters to me when I'm talking about it, because I want people to know that, you know, it's beauty there. It's not, it's Oak Cliff used to be its own city at one point, so it's so many different neighborhoods. And sometimes when you say Oak Cliff, people be like, oh, El Barrio. Like, I've had people say that, or the hood. And I'm like, yes and no, you know. So I want to make sure I'm representing that area well.
Mm-hmm. So reflecting on your high school years at Townview Business Management, can you share a memorable experience?
Yeah, I was thinking about this because honestly, I didn't really like Townview when I was here. I couldn't wait to get out. But I mean, it wasn't because the teachers were phenomenal. We had great resources. I just was like an outcast. And I just remember like hating lunch. Like, I'll be eating lunch in the library. Like, it was so awkward. But I was like, I'm just going to use business and get me this scholarship and get out of here. So I graduated. I was like third in my class for business that year. But it was just 100 of us. But when I was thinking about it, I was like, you know what? I did have some good times here. So one of my really favorite memories is one of my art classes. One of the only art classes I actually took here was AP Art, and I had Miss Jones, who was really a substitute teacher, and she was just so vibrant and like bold, and she was like, don't be afraid to play with color, because you know when you're creating, sometimes you're like, you hold things precious and you're like, I don't want to mess it up. And she was like, don't be scared, like use as much color as you want. And we were working on my portfolio. I didn't end up taking the AP exam or presenting it, but that experience is a big memory. You know, going to the pep rallies for the band. I wasn't in the band, but I like, you know, that culture. Looking back, I just went to the Battle of the Bands. I have one of my best friend's kids like plays for Skyline, and I saw, you know, the Townview band. I was like, yeah, you know, so. It was some good memories for sure. Those are some that I thought about recently, yeah.
So we know that you graduated from Babson College in 2010 with a full scholarship, which congratulations on that.
Oh, thank you.
Can you tell us how your college experiences shaped your overall understanding and mindset on the arts and overall? Yeah,
so Babson is like business. I know it has a new name, Marvin E. Robinson. It's like, we just call it business back then, but it's like business but times 10. So like you guys have a really good foundation. The difference is like when our freshman year in college, we had to start our own business with our peers. Like legit, we had money and, you know, created a business company, and we got graded based on that. And it was a lot of group work. It was a lot of group projects, presentations, and what I missed was the arts, because it was very business focused. So I would seek out like ways to get my artistic expression out, because business can be it's interesting, but it can be a little bit kind of black and white. Either you're right or wrong, you know, and I needed that other side where it was like, hey, this is expression, this is what I want to do. And yeah, so I my freshman year in college, I was in the theater group, the Babson Players, and was in musicals, and I worked for the school paper, and I found the ceramic studio. I stumbled on that. Basically, it was connected to the dining hall, and I just walked in there and was like, what is this? And they were just so warm and welcoming, and yeah, the rest was history. That was my safe space. Whenever I needed to unwind or escape, I would go in there and, you know, and just create. And that's really what birthed kind of my art style now, and what I do now was those seeds were planted when I was in school, just, you know, looking for an outlet. Yeah.
So to go back to how business can be a little bit more like, you know, business, it's interesting. I was going to bring art, but I really actually haven't created art in a year because I've been so focused on business. So what do you do when you feel like you're so scared to do art because you want it to be like a representation of you, but you don't know how to like get it out there?
I think the best thing is to just do it, like let your mind just flow, sketch, you know, and it doesn't have to be perfect. That was the biggest thing about the residency that I just did. Like I was doing stuff that was outside of my norm. I was playing with new mediums, different types of paint, different types of canvas materials, and I was just like, you know what? It's okay. If it comes out crappy, it's okay. You know, I can just, you know, it's learning. It's all data. And same thing with art. It's like sometimes you have to brain dump to get to that amazing piece or the amazing idea. You have to get all of that out of there. And it's all just, you know, I don't know, like practice. So you can't, I don't know. I know what you mean. Like sometimes I get in that mode when I'm like, I really want to do something phenomenal. And it's like, you kind of have to start with whatever comes out, like whatever your hands do and whatever you're thinking, like just doodle, whatever, and get it out, because that clears the path for that phenomenal piece, for sure.
Can you pinpoint a specific moment in college when you realized that art would be a big part of your future?
Honestly, I had no idea. I really didn't expect to be an artist. That wasn't the plan. It was just fun, and it felt good. And then basically, when I graduated, I knew what I didn't want to do. Like, I was like, I don't want a traditional job. I don't want to sit in the office. So I kind of bounced around a little bit till I found my niche. But all that time while I was searching and doing different roles, I was creating. And that was the one steady thing. And I realized that. I was like, man, I really want to know what my purpose is. And like, that was my prayer, my question. And one day it dawned on me. It was like, girl, that's your purpose. Like, what? So in my 5-year reunion for Babson, my college reunion, I met up with a friend, Jamal, we were both artistic when we were in school, and we were both creating 5 years later. And he was like, man, we should do an art exhibit here on campus. And I was like, yeah, that's a good idea. And we just kind of teamed up. And yeah, it happened very organically. I would never have been able to foresee it. I love it. I'm like, yeah, this is awesome, and I'm grateful for it. But no, I didn't have this planned at all. Yeah, I probably would have been doing marketing. I think that's what I said when I was getting to graduate. I was like, I want to do marketing for small businesses. And that's what I initially did when I first came out, because I was really good at Photoshop and creating through that. And that's how I was artistic in business. Even in my the business we created freshman year at school, I was the graphic designer. That's how I got my good grade in class. I was like, yeah, I'm contributing, I'm creating. So I thought I was going to be doing something along that line. Yeah.
I do have a question. How do you balance or manage your time while working with business and art?
It's hard. I've been doing it for a while, so I'm not gonna lie. It can be tough, but you're just driven. Where I've been working now and doing adjusting, I love the freedom of it. I'm not on call on weekends. I work 8 to 4:30 Monday through Friday, so I have a very set schedule. So I know if I want to create, I can create at night. I can create early morning, on the weekends, and that's what I would do. It's that would be my time. I was also really fortunate, a lot, when I started talking about my art and work, at first I would keep it very separate. I would be insurance version of me and then the artist, but I kept it, it was two separate worlds. But somehow I think one of my managers was like, what are you into? And I was like, oh, I actually like art. And he was like, oh, I used to, want to do that too. So they've been very supportive. If I need to take off, I had a mural project last summer, and my manager at the time, I was like, look, I need to go take off and work on this project. I had the time available, but I was able to be very honest and I didn't really have to put in too much time, what do you call it? A heads up. I was just like, hey, I'm going to be off Wednesday. So I had people that were very supportive of me and my work, even with the residency. I asked them, I was like, hey, can I take off, for these 2-3 weeks? My manager was like, whatever we got to do, yeah, so I'm grateful for that, and that helps. That helps when you're supported.
Okay, so your career journey from Ann Taylor to journalism at Dallas Examiner and now insurance adjusting for the past 11 years, that's diverse. So how did these early career experiences contribute to your personal and professional growth?
Yeah, so Ann Taylor was my first job out of college. And I was trying to think about why I chose it, but I remember at my graduation from school, everybody had really nice dresses, and they had a new dress for graduation. And I didn't even think about it. I showed up in a shirt and I looked busted, and I was like, oh my gosh, we had our cap and gown over it, but I was like, I really want to have clothes that prepare me professionally. So I was like, even whatever I decide to do, I need nice clothes. So Ann Taylor is known for professional clothing for women. So that's why I started working there, because I got a really good discount. So I had a phenomenal wardrobe for professional work. And then, some of the women I met there I'm still cool with today. That was 10 plus years ago. But all of us are in different, one's a lawyer now, many are teachers. I'm in insurance, so it was a good landing spot to get started. From there, I learned how to basically anybody that walked in the door, where our job was to make them feel beautiful, and what that looked like, what that meant was different for everybody. But to be able to understand their needs and wants for this outfit, or what they were, going for, and what was communicated verbally and non-verbally. And just, be able to give feedback and service. So I think that's a phenomenal skill, to be able to sit with somebody and hear what they're saying, but also understand the nonverbal, and be able to address any fears or concerns without them having to outright come out and ask about it. After that, I did have a job as a writer, and I got on with the Dallas Examiner and became their top reporter covering politics and education. I would go to all the city council meetings and school board meetings for DISD and, kind of understand what was going on behind the scenes and why things were happening. And from that, I had a phenomenal wardrobe because I just come out of Ann Taylor, so I looked the part, and I just learned how to interact with people of all backgrounds and be confident and ask questions and be able to make information that's really difficult, very, easy to understand. So again, that's a good trait that I carry forward, even in my artwork, being able to boil down topics or boil down what I want to say, be able to communicate that. And then insurance is a kind of a combination of all of that. It was when I got hired with them, I didn't know anything about, I'm in auto damage. So I didn't know anything about cars. I didn't know, how to get repaired. But they were like, we don't care. As long as you do good time management and customer service, we can train you on everything else. And, all of that came full circle.
So, obviously a lot of people don't pull off red lipsticks. They feel like they can't. But you look so good. So I was going to ask, a lot of time we think business, we think very, black, white. So do you feel like you put a little bit creativity in how you dress at work? Or do you just,
I have a very different uniform for work. I don't normally wear lipstick. I don't wear makeup at all for my insurance gig because I'm one of the few women that do it, and I was like, I don't really get. You can I know people that do it and they're glamorous and they look phenomenal. That just hasn't been my aesthetic for work. I have my glasses on normally. I plan to wear my glasses today. I forgot, but so it's totally different. We have a uniform and pants, and I got my little work boots because I'm getting under cars, I'm looking at damage, I'm going to body shop. So it's a little different. And you're dealing with a lot of different guys. So, I'm not going to say I get hit on, but they'll comment on stuff. So I just kind of try to not emphasize that. Okay. But for art, yes. And from the business side, yeah, even at, when I was in school, I do have a little bit of more flair, but I think the good thing is what the rules are, what's acceptable, and then you kind of can play. It depends on the industry, it depends on what you're doing. But yeah, definitely in my insurance job, no, I'm not. They've never seen me in lipstick or any of that, no, for sure.
How would you say your background in art and journalism influence your approach in insurance adjusting?
I think just trying to see people as humans and understand, like I said, understand their concerns, understand what they want, understand their questions without them necessarily asking. You can read people's body language. Sometimes because I am a woman in that space, people, I'll make an appointment and they're like, okay, when's the guy coming out? And I was like, no, I'm the one coming out. I'm coming out. You know what I mean? And you just try to address it, kind of spot on and make sure I'm competent with my voice and my word choice and, body language. And, yeah, it's a lot of watching people and, trying to read their energy, even if they don't necessarily communicate, hey, I don't know if you're doing a good job. It's hey, I've been doing this X amount of years, whatever, to kind of calm them and make sure that, hey, you're good. You're good. You're going to be okay. I got you, And I normally communicate that, hey, I want to, take care of you. I want to make sure it's easy as possible. I'm sorry you have to see me today. Because most people I see have been in an accident. So, it's not necessarily the most ideal time. It's like a crisis. So you just try to make people calm and let them know that they're going to be okay.
You emphasize the importance of people who supported and pushed you towards your purpose. Can you share a specific instance where someone's support profoundly impacted your journey?
Yeah, so when I first got started kind of showing my work, I was in journalism, and I actually went to an artist studio in South Dallas. His name is J.D. Evans. He's phenomenal. He does sculpture, he does paintings. And I was in there, I was like, man, this is cool. It's he has his own studio. And then I was like, man, I'm an artist. I was like, I create. And he was like, really? He was like, I want to see your work. I was like, okay. So I come back and I showed him my work. And he was like, you have a good style. He was like, you need to show it to the person who was over the South Dallas Culture Center at the time, Vicky Meek. And I was like, okay, cool. So I did. I took his advice. But that was the first time I really had shown my work to another artist. And he was very warm and very supportive. And that got me started on this journey. Like when I met with Miss Vicky, honey, she ripped me up to pieces when she saw my work. I got a very tough critique, and she was like, you got, good color work, and she was like, you got good design, but she was like, you need to take some drawing classes. Like literally, that's what she told me. And I was sad. I was like, what? Because I've never had anybody tell me that. Like, everybody in my family and everybody was like, oh, you're good, you're natural. And she was like, nah, you're not. But, once I got over my feelings, the guy I was dating at the time had gone to school for art, and he was telling me, he was like, a lot of times people are critical. Like, we used to do this in school all the time. It was like, it's part of the process. You can either take it and take the good out of it, or you can, be like, nah, I disagree, and keep going. But I sat down and I was like, all right. And I took some classes. I went to Richland College. I took some drawing classes. I would go after work. And it was the best decision ever. Like right now, I'm probably one of the strongest sketchers I know, and I can just look and go because that's what we're doing in class. But I had to take that mentor who pushed me toward this person that was like, nah, and then, went down a different path, but it made me better. And, now I can sit here, and if a younger artist, I would handle it differently now. I don't think I would be like that, but, I can, I'm more equipped because I didn't go to school for art, right? I went to school for business, and I did need those additional skills to kind of keep going. And that's what she was telling me. She was like, if you really want to show in bigger spaces, you need to go and get some classes. So I did. But that was the greatest advice ever.
Do you feel like, I never thought about doing art for a career, but do you feel like you could do something for a hobby and still go to classes and just, like, put in so much time and just, like, just have that as, like, a minor or something?
Yeah, you could do whatever you want. Like, for me, it was therapeutic. It was a good outlet, and sometimes, like, I didn't plan to start selling my work professionally. Like, I had friends and family that were like, hey, like, you should start selling. And I was like, and finally I was like, okay, let me try. And I started out, like, at church, like, outside in our foyer, outside the sanctuary with my bishop. Like, my dad reached out to him and was like, hey, my daughter wants to sell her work. Is it okay? And he looked at it and was like, okay. And, it worked out. But it's okay. Like, even if it's, like, as long as it makes you're doing what you like and you're in your passion, like, as far as the commercial aspect of it, like, I don't really sell a ton of work. I'm in shows. I get commission work. But I'm not necessarily creating to sell. It's what I like to do, and I'm in a position where I don't have to, like, create to eat, because I do have my main other work, and that's what I wanted. I wanted to be like a space for me to unwind. I didn't want it to be stressful or like, hey, I got to sell this, I'm not going to be able to make rent or whatever, I didn't want that. But some people do it, it's wherever your path leads you. So whatever you feel like, feels right to you. You can't. It's not a right or wrong answer. Like, whatever your path is, it's your path for sure.
Mm-hmm. Being a part of a circle of fellow artists and having a mentor artist is crucial in your journey. How has the community influenced your work and growth as an artist?
Yeah, one of the biggest influences I have, we call ourselves art sisters. Like, I have people that I came up with, that we were all started out around the same time, like doing the same shows, like Pancakes and Booze, and what was it? It was a few other ones that, when you're first starting out, that's where you go, and you meet people, and they tell you about other opportunities. But probably the biggest influence I've had has been DeMarcus McCoy, who I met, like, after the pandemic. He had a show here. He lives in New York, but is from Oak Cliff as well. And he's done a ton of residencies. He's been to Spain, and he did the French residency before me, and has done residencies in New York. And I was like, man, I really want to do that. Like, I was like, I want to do residencies. And he was like, you can, So having people like that in my corner, and he kind of pushed me. He was like, man, just go ahead and apply. And I was like, all right, I'm going to apply. Not thinking anything of it. Honestly, I didn't even apply. It wasn't a great application. Like, I just did it so I can get him off my back a little bit because he was pushing me on it. And, I ended up getting the residency, and it was phenomenal. It was what I wanted. It was just kind of scary to put yourself out there and do it. But when you see other people in that space thriving and that look like you and saying, hey, you can do this too. Like, I'm doing it, just, do it, apply. It's helpful, and it pushes you to kind of keep going and get better.
Can you share an example of a valuable lesson you learned from a mentor artist or fellow creative?
say probably that. Just, I learn all the time, like, all of us do things differently as far as how we present our work. Like, when something sells, like, one of my friends was telling me he always puts a thank you note, and he does something else. I'm not going to tell y'all because it's very signature, but he's very thoughtful in, like, his sales because he wants to make sure that the person buying it knows that he appreciates it. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I was like, I'll do a thank you note, but it'll be like, so just like from the business perspective, how are you differentiating yourself as a creative to people that are supporting you? How are you presenting your work? So I wouldn't say anybody in particular for that, but like all of us talk about that, and then like how we are, trying to create our own brand, because it is a brand in a sense. Your work looks, all our works look different. My work honestly looks pretty signature, just because of how I started and my color choices, my themes. But how do you connect with clients? And then when you do have the sales, like I just had a sale recently, and I thought about what he said, and I was like, all right, let me write this thank you note, and make sure I would do it, but it wasn't consistent. So stuff like that where I can get better. I'm trying to get better from the business side and administrative side as well. But it's like all of us kind of talking and, as a collective, trying to be the best versions of ourselves.
Shonda's art beautifully blends entrepreneurship and art. What motivated you to merge these two aspects, and what challenges did you face establishing Shonda's art?
Because I come to Babson, I had come to Townview, I'd taken Miss Shipman's entrepreneurship class and taken marketing here. Like, I knew I needed a website. I knew I needed, like, my domain name. So I did that pretty early on. So people knew how to contact me. So it was pretty easy. Like, it wasn't hard because the business part came naturally. For the most part, it's the art that was a little tougher, and it's just about carving out time to create, to practice, to, do different shows and trying to decide, like, which shows make sense. Like, not necessarily applying to everything, but applying to the ones that, make sense for where I want to go and what I want to do. Honestly, I probably need to update my website now. I have so much work I haven't added on there. So making time for that, and carving out time for the administrative side. And, social media is important. I don't post a ton on there, but when I do, I'm very intentional. I normally post in 3. So, like, just stuff like that where it's, okay, this is what I'm doing. I have intent. Like, it's not, like, just all over the place, but I'm trying to do something that's signature that is an extension of my brand.
Could you share your experience during your residency in France at
Chateau Orcavo?
Yes.
It's okay.
And how it influenced your artist's perspective? Yeah.
And don't feel bad. Like, I was there. I was doing Duolingo for like 70 days, and I got there to Paris, and I was like, I can't even tell this taxi where I'm going. Like, it was bad, but it got better. I think anytime you're getting outside of your comfort zone where you like don't have any distractions, for me, because I work full time, Monday through Friday most days, and then the art is kind of secondary. To be able to create and focus on that, and all I had to do there was literally eat, sleep. It was 20 of us as part of the residency, so it was collaborative. So, we had dinner together. I would pop into other people's studios, but my main job was to create, and that was a gift because all I had to do was say, okay, what do you want to do? And I had all this stuff I brought with me. I had ideas. I had printouts of different references I wanted to play with, but I really wanted to challenge myself to go bigger or smaller or use different materials. So it wasn't just like, oh, this is what I always do. Like, okay, how does this space influence my work? And it was evident, like, in the colors, because I was surrounded by nature. We were in central France, kind of near the Champagne region, tiny area, population of 75. They had goats and cows, chickens, and the biggest thing there was a church, and I would, walk around the neighborhood and go on daily walks, sometimes by myself or with other people, and yeah, it was just different. So it allows, like I was telling you, like you have to brain dump. It allowed me to kind of brain dump, in a way where I was able to create and just go, and it took me a while to get started creating. Like, I know everybody works differently, so I know when people would walk past my studio, I had all these different fabrics all around and nothing on here, and they're like, what's she doing? And then I finally got started. I was like, all right, it's time. So I started sketching, and that's how I normally do. I start off with a sketch and then paint. So I was like, had a theme. I knew what I wanted to do first, second, third, and I was just on a roll. Like, I created 9 pieces over those 2 weeks, and all of them I was like happy with. Like, I felt like they were solid, and each of them kind of pushed me in different ways. But some really big ones, some on like this bandana, like materials I've had forever, like just hanging out that I bought at Joann's like years ago. I was like, all right, let me just throw this in my suitcase. I don't know what I'm gonna do with this, but and it all came together. So that's the beauty of a residency. It's like you have time to just create and think and play, and it pushes you upward. And it, for me, it showed me to bet on myself. It showed me that I was who I thought I was. Because honestly, like I said, people were like looking at me like, girl, she's not gonna get, like one guy was like, he was like, I wonder if people are really ambitious and don't get stuff done. I was like, no. It was like, it doesn't matter if I get it done or not. Like, I'm pushing myself. Like, I don't care. I was like, it doesn't matter. But I got everything done, and I was like, yeah, what's up? But, so that was phenomenal, just to be able to do and go and create and interact with people from all over the world and feel confident. It wasn't a competition at all, but it was a competition really for me to be like, okay, you can keep going. Like, you're doing good.
How do opportunities like classes, murals, grants, and international residencies contribute to your artistic growth?
Anything that kind of gets you out of your norm. Like, I started doing murals. Honestly, I was asked to do a mural before I was ready, and that's why I told one of my friends that is doing the Forest Theater kind of revitalization. I was like, I don't really work that big, and because I wanted to, but I hadn't at that time. But, because it was a friend of mine, I was like, all right, okay, let's try, So I did that one. It was for the grand opening of our reopening, kind of their glimpse of Forest Theater. And, she was like, how much paint do you need, et cetera, et cetera. I had to figure that out, make time to do it. So I think anything that puts you in a different position where you're having to think differently, like I did reach out to people that were muralists, that do phenomenal work that I respect. I had friends out there with me because I was in South Dallas. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I love it. But I'm like, yeah, I needed somebody out there with me so I could paint and focus on that. So my dad would be out there with me at night. It was rainy and cold, but those anything that puts you outside of your norm. When I did that successfully, I went and applied for another one in Deep Ellum and got that in Blues Alley because it builds. Everything builds and grows and push you. You want to keep going and going to. Sometimes I want to keep going to the next level. Whatever that looks like, whatever that is. But grants are great because we have the business mindset. It wasn't hard for me to apply. I just had to learn what they were expecting, what they wanted. So I sat down with a peer, and he was like, Shonda, like, this is what they're going to want from you. Like, I would do workshops, and he was like, emphasize the workshops. And the other stuff, like, that's not necessary. And I was able to get this $7,000 grant from the city because I asked for help, but also, I wanted to get paid to do what I like. I don't believe in starving artists. I get paid. Or if I'm not, I'm getting experience from it. I'm like, okay, I'm going to gain something insightful that'll help me get, because I think our time is valuable. Like, I want to make sure it's worthwhile.
Can you share any input or advice for people who may be going through like burnout or unmotivation through their art or anything like that?
Me.
Oh. Yeah. Oh my. I carry a sketchbook with me. I just started doing this again. One of my friends gave me one. So I was going to try, honestly, like during lunch, like carry it with me and just bust it out and be like, because you'll see stuff, like I'll see stuff during my day, like, oh, this is cool, and I'll take a picture of it. I think just being open and like all around you, there's inspiration. But like I said, not forcing yourself to be like, I have to create this phenomenal piece. Like, it'll come. Like, trust your creativity, trust your instinct. Like, it's not just one idea. It's infinite. It's infinite. It's infinite. That's my biggest thing. Like, that's what I had to learn. Like, because sometimes we hold one idea so preciously, and it's like when you trust it, it'll keep coming. And, you know, I think just, you know, if you need to sit down, like, I haven't painted since, I painted the first day I got back from Paris, but that's what I was telling my friend. He was like, okay, I can't wait to see what you do when you get back. And I was like, I'm on vacation. Like, I just did 9 paintings. Like, what are we talking about? But I did, it's a piece that I want to finish for one of my little cousins, that I painted on when I first got back. Like, I woke up in the middle of the night because Paris is like 7 hours ahead of us. So when I first got back, you know, I woke up in the middle of the night and I was like, all right, like, I want to do something. So I painted, but I haven't picked up paint since, and I've been back since November 6th, so a month. But I think just trusting your bodies. So if it's like, hey, I'm going to do something else, like, let's go over here, let's listen to music, let's write, you know, or I have a lot of different outlets. So I do yoga, work out. Like I said, I went this morning, and those help because it's like when you're not trying to think about art, it'll pop up and you're like, oh, wow, I got this idea. And, you know, you have to write it down. But just trust your body, trust your mind, trust your creativity. It'll come back.
Have you done anything else other than painting, like sculptures or like color pencil drawings?
I was working a lot with watercolor. Watercolor was what I wanted to work on when I was in the residency because it's so different. I normally just do watercolor when I go on vacation, but I was like, one of my friends gave me this watercolor set as a gift, a going away gift for France, and I was like, all right, you're going to get good at this. And I thought it was going to come naturally somehow, but I was talking to another artist who was working with gouache, and he was like, yeah, I was watching all these videos, and I was like, oh, you watch videos? And he was like, yeah. I was like, okay, let me sit down and watch a watercolor video, and it helped. I do want to get into sculpture. I do want to take some classes and try different medias, because I think 3D is totally different. Like, I've seen painters that have entered it 3D or mixed media world and done some cool stuff, and, you know, I'm curious. I'm like, I don't want to limit myself. I already do, like, work on really different surfaces. Like, I've painted on mirrors and bamboo plates and wood and all kind of stuff. Like, I have some shutters at home that I'm, like, in shades. Like, I love shades. So I'm, like, already kind of creative and pushing towards 3D. But, yeah, I want to enter that space. I haven't done it yet. I did do, like, a ceramic bust, but that was like at a workshop at Stardust Culture Center. Just happened to show up at, and I was like, yeah, this is cool. And it's different because it's like, you know, that learning curve is starting all over. So, like, the guy was like, oh, that's interesting. And I was like, oh, it's actually it's decent. And I was like, it's okay. And I'm just like playing with it because I'm like, it's okay. I'm gonna get better though. It's, you know, so yeah, I'm definitely interested in sculpture.
How do you feel about, like, okay, so there's different mediums, obviously. How would you feel about body paint? Like, you know, those people that like paint and would you ever try that?
I'm open to it. I've done face paint. I've never done body though, but I've seen it and I think it's phenomenal. It's so intricate, but yeah, they basically turn the body into a work of art. I haven't personally had the desire to do that. I guess because I'll be like, oh, am I being rough? Like, I don't know. I don't know. You know, I don't know the nuances yet. But, yeah, I think it's cool. I've seen people do it phenomenally, so I respect it for sure. Yeah.
Has there been an art medium you've kind of, like, struggled with? And, like, how did you get over that struggle and really be able to master that medium?
I would say probably something that didn't come. Probably charcoal. Which I love charcoal, but like when we first starting out, you know, just learning the nuances and then rub outs and all that. Like, that was something we did a lot of in my drawing class. And I mean, it wasn't too much of a struggle, honestly. I think watercolor probably, just because I wanted it to do what I wanted it to do. And it was doing its own thing and just learning how to build up. That was probably my hardest. Like, I like charcoal. I've done drawings. Like, one of my art friends loves my drawings. She was like, you just need to do drawings, because it's like you know, in addition, like separate, like highlight that. Because normally I draw and then I paint. I don't really just show my sketch work. But it's solid. It's really good because I worked at it. That's why I'm able to say that, you know. But I haven't done oil yet at all. I'm kind of scared of oil. But, you know, I feel like, you know, I want to be able to say, yeah, I tried this and I like this and I didn't like this. So I'm open. I have some gouache at home. I had to leave it because my suitcase was like 70 pounds or something ridiculous going to Paris. So it was like, you got to get this down. And that was one of the things I left. It was like a heavy tin of gouache. You know? So I have it. I just haven't played with it yet. But I haven't messed with oil. I haven't done gouache. I have done spray paint, which was cool for mural work. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. Like I'll go to fabricate. I have a ton left. So I'll go down to Fabrication Yard in West Dallas. I suggest that for any artists who want to play with, you know, murals or, you know, big things. Yeah, I'll give you that. Yeah, I'll give you. But yeah, it's like this free art yard where you can go. Like they have their hours. I would say definitely take somebody with you because, you know. But yeah, you can go and create. And honestly, people are probably gonna paint over it. They paint over it because it's a free space. So people will do graffiti work there, or like I would go there and just practice mural work because I have all these spray paint left over. So that was cool when I learned how to use it. I want to get better though. I want to play with the different tips. I have a ton of them. I just haven't had the opportunity to mess with it too much.
So you said you're scared of oil, but honestly, like acrylic is so hard for me because it dries so fast, and I'm so bad at blending when it dries. But the one thing I love about oil is that it takes sometimes it takes days to dry, and so I can come back and like change things. But yeah, oil is my favorite medium.
I haven't tried oil yet, but I'm really excited to try it.
I personally prefer acrylic paint.
Yeah.
Because I don't like how long it takes for oil to dry.
I haven't messed with it, but that's what I heard. Because I do a lot of layer work, I like acrylic too because I'm like building. Like I'm like I need this to dry, but I think it'll be a different challenge. So I'm interested.
I think it just really depends on the person. Like me, it takes me a long time to I feel like I'm more perfecting. I want to look a certain way. So when I have oil, it's easier for me to go back and be like, okay, no, let me change this. So it just depends on the person. Because I love your acrylic work. So.
Thank you. Have you worked with oil pastels?
I have oil pastels. I haven't done anything with it. they're just sitting. I have a whole kit of all this. Now I'm thinking about it. Yeah, I haven't.
I love oil pastels.
I haven't messed with it yet.
See, I love pastels and all those things. Like, honestly, okay, I'm going to tell you a secret. Please don't laugh at me. It took me a year to realize you're not, I would see videos and they would just, draw the oil pastel. Like, they wouldn't rub it. I would rub my oil pastel.
Girl, I rub it too.
And I was looking at theirs and I was like, how did they get theirs so smooth and
But you just keep drawing.
And it took me a year to really realize.
I mean, if I really need to rub it, then I'll rub it. But
I'm gonna have to say I'm do that this weekend. If I have time today, I'll play with it because I'm curious now. That's cool. So you guys have messed with a lot of different mediums, huh?
Yeah, I'd rather mess with a lot than just stick with one and be like, oh, well, this is good enough. Like, I want to try all of them because they're so different. You can do so. Yeah. I like to mix all of them, honestly. Like, she taught me to do color pencil and paints and also pastels. So yeah, I
personally stick to color pencil drawings. I'm more color pencil and acrylic paint. I've only done oil paint twice.
Okay.
And I didn't really like it, but I like working with different mediums to see how I can do and what I'm strong at.
No, that makes sense. I mean, I've seen some phenomenal work in color pencil, in galleries, for local artists. And do y'all go to any local galleries or anything?
No.
We don't know where any.
We don't. I mean,
I'll get y'all a list.
Thank you.
We don't know where to start. It's
Daisha's gallery. So she had 3. It's a black-owned gallery, Dallas. She had her first spot in West Dallas, and then one in downtown in the Jewel. And then there's one back in West Dallas now that's massive. But Pencil on Paper, black-owned gallery, that's phenomenal as well. trying to think. Cedars Union, I'm a member of that, and they have all these, I don't know if they have an age limit. It's like a co-working space, so they have a wood shop, they have like 3D printer, they have a sewing machine, and that's where I would go when I was working on really big work. But no, I'll get y'all, I'll get you a list. Get you a list.
I'm sorry, it's just I'm looking around and there's no pins.
Oh, yeah. The Latino Cultural Center is phenomenal. Southhouse Culture Center, Oak Cliff Culture Center, like those culture centers are awesome. And they do classes and workshops and all that.
Okay, so down to the real question. I've had a lot of debates over this. Do you feel like it's the artist who can make a good drawing out of whatever brand they have, or do you feel like the brand helps the artist? When it comes to like, because, a lot of people, they say like, oh, you can't, it depends on the art. So how do you feel?
When you say brand, you mean like...
The cheaper brands versus
the materials?
Yeah, the materials, yes.
I think materials matter. Like, I know artists that, use anything and create phenomenal work. And that's where I was. Like, I was using, like, literally basic art, like the artist loft paint when I first started. And then it wasn't until, like, I had Danielle Critchmore, artist in residence at Babson, was like, I think you guys should try, heavier body, like gold. I forgot golden. I used, what I use? Oh, God. I haven't seen it in so long. But I use, like, a specific brand now. But even that brand, it's the lower-end model. When I went to France, I did grab the heavy body, the heavy ones, because I was like, okay, let me see what this is about. And all I had was, like, these tiny tubes. And I was able to do 9 paintings out of it. So I think it's legit. I did prime it with other material, but, like, it was tiny. Like, I had just the bare minimum, the primary colors. And normally I'm spoiled. Like, I have this, like, 48 colors. So I'm like, I want this. Like, I haven't had to mix in a while. So when I was there, I was like, I don't have space for all that. So I had those primary colors. And, like I said, literally these tiny tubes. And it lasted. So there is something weight to it because it covers better and it's thicker, so you don't have to use as much.
How do you prime? Like, I've seen so many videos on people priming, and honestly, I don't prime. Okay, I don't prime.
No.
I
recently just learned that you have to prime your paintings. I'm like,
oh, you do?
I mean, you don't have to if like
it
you
just
want
really
it to
helps.
look.
It helps. It does
help.
help.
How do you prime? Please.
Yeah.
Please tell us that secret, because TikTok's not working.
Gesso. Use gesso to cover.
This would be so great if I had
something
to write down with.
Well, it's recorded, right? No, but I'll write it. But no, they have white gesso. They have black gesso. I love black because I think you can build up from there. The way I started kind of priming, because I didn't prime it first either. It was like, okay, great, I'm just going to use this. But most of my canvases that I buy could come pre-primed. But when I started working with wood, I just, like you, I was just like, they were like, you got to make sure you gesso it because the wood is still living and it's still absorbing moisture and you don't want it to warp. So if it's like one side with paint on it and one without, one side is receiving moisture differently. So when he said that, I was like, okay, yeah, I'll start. It depends. It depends on what look you want, But like I had some canvas that didn't prime with me at the residency. It was definitely harder to cover. Like the one I did, it went on like butter. It was like, yeah, I bought that was pre-gesso, but yeah, they have bottles of it, gesso, white or black, and then you just, take your big brush and go over it and lay it out. They probably have clear too. I need to find some clear for wood because I love working with like natural materials, but I normally don't. I hadn't been gessoing it or priming it. I just rode with it, but it worked because it was kind of just a rougher look, and I don't know, it felt more organic to me.
At least I know my Christmas list now. Yeah. I've been struggling, so yeah, I know it's put on my Christmas list now. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Have you ever painted on a black canvas?
Mm-hmm.
What?
I love it.
What's the difference? Because I know like a lot of times people tell you to put like a neutral color on the base or like, a color that will fit with all the, so how is black? Because I know black is like, it's really dark and it's harder. Well, for me, it's harder to like start off with.
For me, it made the colors pop. Like anything I put on there was more vibrant, and I use a lot of color anyway. But yeah, like my black paintings, starting with black canvas, I was like, oh, this is nice. Like I didn't even feel like I needed to do a background on it, which I do primary figure work. So sometimes I have backgrounds, sometimes I don't. But yeah, I think it makes it pop. Anything with a color, like I do start with a lot of blues or reds in the background, depending on the vibe of the painting. But yeah, black is top tier. I love it.
If you could go back in time and collaborate with any artist from history, who would you collaborate with and why?
I'll be honest, I love my my current collaborator. We haven't done anything in a while, but Jamal, the guy I mentioned earlier, like he does abstract work and I do figurative. So we would do, like, he would do a painting in Boston and mail it to me here, and then I would paint it. And when we first started doing it, you know, I really didn't know how to collaborate, so I'd be like out trying to, like, I wasn't thoughtful. Like, I wasn't like, oh, you don't want to overshadow. Like, he had some really cool, like, dots or patterns, and I was like, okay, let's incorporate that more and, like, leave my drawing more abstract, so, like, it shined through. Like, the shirt will be his dot, you know what I mean? So I have, like, we did a Steve Urkel, we did an Oprah, we did a whole series together. But that's my top collaborator partner. I was thinking about, I was like, who would I want to do? And I was like, no, because it's such a, knowing that person, trusting that person, because you're like, we're both touching the work, so, and not outshining each other, feeling like, oh, it's all about me or it's all about him. Like, we were a good team, are a good team, so I would stick with him. But maybe enter more sculptural work. Like, he just did this really cool painting of this cow, but with his, like, crazy color style, and, like, I would love to do, like, 3D work with him or a mural with him in the future, for sure.
I was looking through your art a few days ago, and a art piece really stood out to me. It's called Lady Justice, and I wanted to ask, what was the influence behind it? And I believe it was mixed mediums.
Yeah. So for that one, I was actually asked to be a part of this exhibition on justice. So that was the theme. And it was really, honestly, it was a fundraiser for a lady running for judge. But she was like, I'm going to get these artists to create work, which was a good idea. It was phenomenal. But, yeah, I thought about Lady Justice. Normally we depict Lady Justice as a white woman. And then it's like a very specific look with the scales. So for her, I painted her black with the signature kind of blindfold. But yeah, I found all these things, these buttons. Actually, I think I went to this fabric store off of Harry Hines. I don't think that one's open anymore. But I grabbed all these different buttons that were gold and this material to kind of create the scales, but the scales were lopsided. But yeah, that was fun. Like, I had to go back over that one. I sold it, but before I sold it, I was like, I have to go back over it with clear medium, because I was using, I think, Mod Podge. Like, that was my first time really messing with or experimenting with, let me say it properly, experimenting with, like, mixed media. I do a lot, though, with my, like, playing cards, or for that one, it was, like, heavier material, so I wanted to make sure it stuck. But yeah, it was fun. It was I cut out different newspaper headlines and things that stood out to me about justice. At the time, it was probably around, I want to say it was definitely before 2020, like 2018 when I did it. So probably, like, having to do with, like, you know, all the police shootings and the idea of what justice looks like and who determines what justice is, you know, kind of, it's kind of in the eye of the beholder, so I wanted to make her look like me, basically. Yeah.
If you could choose a fictional character from literature or film to create a portrait, who would it be and why?
Yeah, actually, it's a figure in Tar Baby, which Tar Baby is a book I've read here. Well, I didn't read a book. I got introduced to her here at Townview. My teacher at the time, Miss Jordan, in AP English, like, our very first time we walked into the class, we read this passage, and it was about this woman with this bright yellow gown and head wrap, gilet, and she had skin the really color of tar, but she was stunning, and she walked into this grocery store, and, like, everybody was looking at her like, oh my gosh, like, she's phenomenal. And that was the image I wanted to capture. I've been trying to capture it, honestly, for years. I've done it a couple times, but I'm not happy with it. So if I can do that, to where I capture her correctly, because she had Toni Morrison is a phenomenal writer. I love reading her work, and it's so descriptive. Like, she didn't have eyebrows, and she had these, like, very specific marks on her face, and eyes that were slitted. Like, it's a very specific description, and I've been trying to paint that for years. So I want to try again, but I've tried a couple times. I feel like I can do it better. If I can capture that, I'll be happy. I also do a lot of things with Alice in Wonderland in my work because I fell in love with that story in school. Like, I did a whole story on the writer, actually a website on them. So I just the kind of background and where that came from, and then the nuances of Wonderland, like in the different characters you can play with a lot. So I've done like a Marilyn Monroe, Eartha Kitt, kind of and different themes based on their lives, you know, and how that tied in. But that's the one figure I haven't been able to capture yet. I mean, I've done Wonder Woman. I've done some cool stuff, but that figure from Tar Baby, like, I haven't been able to get down yet. So I want to be able to master that and people to see it and be like, I can sense that energy that, you know, Tony was talking about.
So what themes or messages do you aim to convey through your art, and how does that grow?
When I first started, I just really wanted to paint or show what myself. I was in Boston and, suburb of Boston, but it was like maybe 10 of us in my class of 400 that were Black, if that many. So I wanted art that, like, affirmed me and my beauty. So I would, like, look at magazines and, like, try to paint that. Now it's a little different. It's definitely more about identity and how it's constructed and cultural norms and, and exploring those. So the things that, and it's kind of almost like a science project. Like, I don't necessarily know what I'm trying to say with it. Like, I feel like over the course of the piece, like with Lady Justice, I started creating that, and I was like, yeah, this is what I want to say. But it was organic, and it flowed, and it was like, okay, this is what I'm thinking. But as I'm creating, you know, I maybe come to a different conclusion. Like, maybe, you know, what I thought I wanted to say in the piece shifts. So it depends. But, yeah, just being open to that. But, yeah, exploring identity, dissecting it, dissecting beauty, like what's beautiful, what's not, how that is perpetrated in media and what we see, and in norms and how those are defined.
If you could create a mural anywhere in the world, where would you choose it?
I want to do a mural. I want to do one in Oak Cliff. My beautician, actually, she has a building, and she was like, I want you to paint a mural here. And I was like, okay, cool. But murals are so, like, they're very physically intensive. I didn't really realize that. So I've only done 2, but I'm like, man, y'all are crazy. Like, it's a lot of work. Your whole body hurts. But I really want to do one in Wynwood in Miami. They have Wynwood Walls, and it's like this amazing space with all these incredible murals. And then that area used to be like very Black, and then it got gentrified. Like, one of the taxi drivers was telling me that when I came there for Art Basel a few years ago. So I kind of want to explore the origins of that area and kind of pay homage to it. And, you know, again, I'm exploring culture, norms, identity, like how's the area shift over time and become something that's trendy, you know, and been paying homage to, like, the roots of it. So I would love to do a mural there.
As we wrap up this conversation, is there a piece of advice or message you'd like to share with our Townview family, especially the high schoolers listening in?
Yeah, I mean, I just think, honestly, like, at this stage, I remember being very kind of, like, nervous, like, feeling like I didn't want to screw it up and make a bad decision. Like, you're deciding what school to go to. If you haven't already, y'all may have already know, but like, what to major in, what you want to do. And I don't think you can make a bad decision. Like, just go with your gut. Initially, my parents didn't necessarily want me to go off to Boston. My dad didn't. My mom was like, no, she worked for this. Like, she's going. But my dad was like, nah, you know. So I think your path is your path, and you can't choose badly. Like, what's meant for you is going to find you. Like, I would never expect to be here as a creative, as an artist. It's a beautiful life, and I'm grateful for it, and I'm doing something I love. And it found me, you know. I found it. But, you know, I had to be open to it and be like, this feels good, like, let's explore, you know. So I think as long as you're doing that, everything will work out.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Lashonda Cooks, Adjuster by Day, Artist by Night. As we wrap up this exciting chat, your story is a shining example for everyone tuning in that illustrating that you can just continue your passions, and we can't wait to check out more of what you make at Shonda's Art. Thank you to the SBM family for tuning in. Don't forget to check out our social KSBM, the voice of Townview. Don't forget to check our social medias down below. I'm Violet.
I'm Jelly.
I'm Dante.
I'm Unison.
And I'm Art Lover.
Thank you for watching. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to KSBM Radio, the voice of Townview.
My radio station.
We hope you enjoyed the great content and great discussion, all from a student's perspective. Make sure to follow us on Twitter for the latest updates at KSBM_TVT or on Facebook at KSBM Radio.
Add them on Facebook.
Check them on Facebook.
Take care.